Page. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the page is about and a little bit about myself. I am a recovering cubicle monkey. I've been working in offices for most of my life, and most recently just moved up to the Pacific Northwest. We're here in Washington State, and when I got here I decided it was time to get in shape, and what better way to do it than to hike some of the awesome trails and climb some of the mountains that are in the area. The first goal I set for myself was the lowest of the mountains. Believe it or not, that's Mount St Helens. So if you look at all of the big, beautiful mountains we have around here, Mount St Helens is actually one of the lowest, not the least of which reason it blew its top back in 1980. So there's a nice crater and a smaller sloping peak. So for the past 7 months, I've been doing nothing but training, getting ready for this climb. I started out with just some very low impact, walking on treadmills, going on walks around the neighborhood. I started on a few very low impact hikes. There's plenty of trails around the area, so we live close to the Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington area, right on the Columbia River, and there are lots of beautiful trails around here. So we've been doing low impact hikes in the beginning and slowly ramping those up and getting a little bit more intense. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been hitting a few small mountains. So something that is not as intense as Mount St Helens, but enough to test my mettle. And the last one definitely tested my mettle. We hit Table Mountain, which is right on the Columbia River Gorge. It was over 4,000 feet in elevation gain, and it was a lot. But I'm told that's one of the best hikes to actually prepare for moving on to Mount St Helens. So in just under 36 hours from right now, I'll be getting to the base trail to hike up to the summit and climb to the summit of Mount St Helens. So before I get there, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what I'm packing and why. Before I came here to the Pacific Northwest, I was a Boy Scout for a good number of years and did a lot of hiking around Florida, where we're originally from. So I'm a gear junkie. I love hiking gear and camping gear and things like that. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite pieces and really just focus on the essentials, because when you do a backpack hike and when you actually go up a climb like this, weight matters. So you want to take only the things that are very essential and follow some of the guidelines of guides that have gone before you. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those essentials. I want to talk about what I'm taking and what I'm not. So some of the things that I'm leaving behind that actually are some of my favorite pieces of gear, but I'm not going to be taking them with me. So the first thing is we want to make sure that you've got your survival gear. So I am planning on about a 10-hour hike, round trip. I won't be camping anywhere. I won't be going to a base camp. I don't have to settle in like some of the bigger mountains, or if you've seen any of the movies about Everest, I don't have to acclimatize. 8,600 feet or so is the peak of Mount St Helens, and while the area is a little bit thinner there, nothing I'd have to really adjust to. That's really the 10,000 and above mountains. So what I'm focusing on is no camping. I'm not going to be camping at all, so I'm not taking any of my camping gear. So I got a big sleeping bag here in the corner. I'm not taking that. No tent gear, no cooking gear. So I'm not taking anything that would help me if I was, let's say, boiling water to make some of the freeze-dried meals that you would make to help keep you warm and keep energy in your body as you're going through long hikes. So there are lots of people that do through hiking and spend weeks on a trail or a week on a trail. This is a one-day only, so I'm just going to be leaving early in the morning, climbing to the summit, and then coming back down the same day. But you do want to be prepared, because every hike that you go out on, anywhere in the wilderness, you might accidentally be spending some time overnight. And that's something you have to be prepared for. So there are a couple of things that I've got for that, we'll talk about in a second. And then just in general, how do I keep comfortable on the way up? What are the things I need just to make sure that my hike is enjoyable, because there are beautiful views from up at the top. There's some amazing scenery. You know, this is a legendary mountain that has some incredible history that I really want to enjoy as I'm going up and down. So I don't want to get halfway through and be worn out or hurt or hungry or thirsty or any of the things that could ruin my trip. So I'm prepared for that as well. And then of course I've got a few little extras, but I've minimized the weight, so they should help. Now, disclaimer before I get going, some of this gear I actually got through my subscription to Cairnbox. And Cairnbox is a monthly subscription box. I'm not going to put a link up to it, so I'm not going to get any affiliation from it. But it's actually my favorite subscription box I've ever seen. You get one box a month, and it comes with a variety of gear that could be anything from mountaineering to something to do with a smartphone. I've got a free app on there before that's an expensive app, to flashlights, to water supply systems, a whole variety of things. It's very exciting to get your box and see what you got that month. But some of this stuff I got through that. Some of it I bought through a regular retail outlet. Some of it I bought through REI, which has some really high quality gear. So we'll put some links up later if you're interested in any of this stuff. But in general, I'm just talking about the things that I think are really important. So first of all, one of the things that I didn't even think about before I came here, hiking in Florida, very flat. Hot most of the year. You do have some, the winter months, it's okay to hike in and you don't have to worry about it as much. So really it's hydration. But one of the things that surprised me was hiking poles, trekking poles. If you've ever seen people on a trail with the two trekking poles, they look like ski poles. So I've got a set, sorry I messed up almost out of screen here. I've got a set from Montum. It's a brand new company that does these poles. These are made out of aircraft aluminum. There are lots of different kinds that you can get. My suggestion is depending on what you want them for. So if you're going to be doing long hikes, going through dozens of miles over multiple days, or if you're doing something that's exceptionally high elevation, you may want to go with something extremely light, something weight sensitive. So aluminum or aircraft aluminum even might be a little heavy. You might want to go with something like a carbon fiber or something that has even less weight to it. These guys have done me very, very well. I've hiked a lot of trails with these since we've been here. I put a lot of hard miles on them. As a matter of fact, at the end of each one of these poles, there's a couple of pieces. One is this little rubber tip. That actually covers a hard carbide tip that you use when you're hiking on trails. This little rubber is for when you're going on roads or paths or what have you. Within about 6 weeks of having these poles, I'd worn through the bottom of these little rubber tips, and that piece of carbide had actually popped through. The good thing is these little rubber tips are cheap and you can buy replacements, so I've got a good handful of these for when we're going up. The other piece is you'll see this little cone here. This is called a basket. We use this for if you're walking through anything that is soft substrate. So snow is what you typically think of, right? You watch skiers, they've got that big piece on there to help the pole not sink all the way through. For me, when I climb Helens, towards the top, the last mile is ash field. So it's like hiking in sand at a 45-degree angle. So these baskets I'm actually going to leave on. They're removable. You can just unscrew them and take them off. But for my trip of Helens, I'm going to leave them on because it'll help from my pole sinking down in the sand. But these guys, I love them. And the biggest benefit to these are when you're climbing down on the descent, because these take a lot of impact off of your knees. So when you're going down, you want to extend the poles a little bit, put your hand on this top piece, and you see these are actually designed with a really nice pommel on them. Put your hands on the poles like this, and when you're hiking down, you're actually almost hiking on 4 legs. So it spreads the weight out a lot more, and the knees don't take as much punishment. And for guys like me, they're in their 40s, I want as little punishment on my knees as possible. So trekking poles are the first bit of gear that I'm going to be taking with me and not forgetting. The second thing, and if you followed my page for a while, you've probably seen lots of pictures with me wearing this thing. This is actually called a chamogue. It looks like a great big scarf, and there are a couple of different ways to wear it, but basically I like to wear it around my neck. And the reason I wear this is it's a beautiful fashion accessory, don't get me wrong. But I love the fact that this is a very high multi-use item, and that's something that's really important when you're going out on any kind of trek that you need gear. Can your gear do more than one thing? So this does a lot. It's really thick, so if in the winter or if it gets cold, this actually works as a hood, and there's a couple of different ways that you can tie it. I'm not good at tying it, so don't hold me to this, but there's a lot of ways that you can tie it and use it to do face cover. So one of the things when you climb Helens is that there's a lot of ash if the wind gets really high. So I got a question real quick.
Well, Gail would like you to know that she loves her hiking pole, with her bad ankle, it helps her keep going and keep her balance.
It is, and you know it's funny. I see a lot of Gail. That's a good point. I see a lot of debates on hiking and trekking groups that talk about whether or not to use poles, and you get a lot of, especially younger people, saying, "I don't use them. You know, I'm strong enough. I can handle it." Honestly, one of the biggest things about these is they do help you keep your balance. There's a lot of places you're hiking. There's rocks. There's roots. There's dips in the road. Hiking on 4 legs. Better than 2. That's why mountain goats do it. So, so I'm all over the trekking poles. They're definitely, I'm a believer in them. I got them the first time, took them on a pretty hard hike down, up and down a mountain called Dog Mountain, which is on the Washington State side of the Columbia River down a ways. And I definitely felt on my knees a lot of other hikes that we had been on, but down Dog Mountain, I used those poles. I got to the bottom, I felt nothing. It was really, really great. So sore joints, good point, Gail, they work really well. So the other thing this Shimogue works for is it's actually big enough, if you unfold it the whole way, and this is 100% cotton, you see how big this is. This actually works as an emergency blanket. Now, it's not as good as the technically emergency blankets that you see that are made of foil or aluminum that really preserve heat, but when you can wear something like this and you can use it as extra cushion or as extra insulation, and it's just something you wear around your neck. Even in the heat of the summer, I'll wear this because it's a good wick for sweat around your neck and your face. And then finally, the other thing is this is actually holds a lot of weight, so you can use this to tie off things. It works well as a sling. Actually, my son, who hikes a lot with me, he and I were playing around with different ways to use this as an arm sling. So if you get hurt while you're out on the trail, you pull a shoulder or something, you can use it as an arm sling. It can tie a splint around broken ankles or legs. So it's got a lot of uses. It's very comfortable, and so I pretty much take this with me on every hike. All right, next thing, I'll talk a little bit about my pack. So there are a ton of packs out there that you can get. Really, they go in price range from relatively cheap all the way up into hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I'm not going to advocate for the most expensive packs in the world. I've tested a lot. I've got a really nice one I'll talk about in another video called Cotopaxi, which is actually made in Argentina and helps to support families that sew them together there. They're beautiful, very high color. They fold up into a package about this big when you're not using them, and they're very comfortable on a good hike. But I had done some research and really looked into a pack that I wanted for a one-day out and back journey, and this is what I come up with. This is an Osprey. Osprey pack is a brand. You can get them, again, from relatively inexpensive small little packs all the way up into great big ones. I got the Stratus 4, and it comes with a couple of really nice features. So one of them, and probably my favorite, is it's a little hard to see, but you see the space between this is a tension mesh, very tight and soft, and then there's a gap in there, and then the actual frame of the pack. Now, when I was in Boy Scouts back in the 80s, it was a great big rectangular aluminum frame with a piece of canvas that hung on the back of it. And it was not the most comfortable thing in the world. No matter what they told you, it was difficult. It hurt your back. Even with the straps that come around the sides, it was not comfortable. It was hot and heavy and everything. This is made of super light material. It's got these nice padded straps that have the same kind of mesh on them, so it keeps you cool, and then it has really nice hip straps. Now, if you're going to be carrying any kind of weight, so if you're going on a hike that has a lot of stuff you're going to be carrying in here, and I'll talk about why mine's going to have some weight in it, these hip straps make a huge difference. So carrying all of your weight, like you would a backpack that you get for school, so just a regular backpack you'd find at a school supply store or like a JanSport like we had when we were in school, it's all the weight is on your shoulders, and after a while that weight really presses down and pinches nerves, and you start to hunch your back, and it's going to cause pressure in areas that you can't sustain for a long time. With this, what it does is it actually transfers the weight into a couple of places, primarily right on the side of your hip here. And that's perfect because that's where your body is designed to actually hold most of your weight when you're walking anyway. This has got nice soft, on the interior, nice soft mesh, some padding, and it even has some nice little zipper packs that I keep my snacks in. So when we're hiking down the trail, I like having something on the side so I can pull out some trail mix or a Cliff Bar or something like that. But the feel of this and the way that it feels on your body when you're hiking, it makes a lot of difference. So those are my primary reasons for getting this. The added benefit to this specific one is it actually comes with a hidden pack in here. I mean, a hidden pocket that you can put a camel pack in. And a camel pack is essentially the 21st century version of a canteen. It's a big plastic bag about this tall. I ended up getting a 3-liter pack for this hike because they recommend 4 total liters of water when you're going up to Mount St Helens. And it fits inside, in between that gap area, and out the side comes this nice little hose with a little pinch nozzle on it that when you're hiking, you just grab this, you can take a drink and put it back. Back in my days of hiking in Boy Scouts, I had the great big giant aluminum canteen that hooked to your hip belt and it weighed 20 pounds and not comfortable to carry, and it was not a lot of water. So this is 3 liters built into this bag and comes out the side, and it's as easy as can be. Now, I'm actually taking extra water on this hike, so you'll notice that I've got a little miniature canteen here. This is a Cotopaxi, the brand I talked about before that does the other backpack I have. It's just an aluminum canteen. It's nothing special. It's really hardy. Taken this on a lot of trails and dropped it on a lot of trails, and it hasn't chipped or dented much at all. And it has a nice little rubber seal on top. So what I'll do with this is I'll fill it with some kind of hydration tablet. You just put the water in, drop one of these tablets in, and it's like a lot like making your own Gatorade. There are a lot of different brands. I've got one that I got here at REI that I like. The flavor matters to me, so a lot of them will do the same type of thing. It's really about having a little bit of sodium in the water, which is what Gatorade is. And then this one has a couple of vitamin C in it. It's GU hydration drink tabs, but there are lots of different varieties, and really you could go with straight water the entire time. I like starting with this because I tend to get overheated and sweat the most when I first start the hike. So I like to do this first, and then once this empties, then I go to my hydration pack that's in the bag. And then by the time we're done, you're empty. So I do want to talk about something I'm not taking on this trip that I would if it was a longer hike, if it was more days, and that's one of these. So you may have seen advertisements for something called a Life Straw. That's a brand name for basically an on-the-go water filter, and this is just a different brand. This is called Frontier Pro. I got this again in my Cairn box. It was just part of that, what you get in there. And you'll notice this one, I actually tied it together with a little strap. This does not come with it when I get it, so I always carry extra of these little rubber attachments or strings just to attach any gear. So with this one, what you do is you will stick this down in any water source, a river, a pond, a creek, even glacial melt or ice melt or anything. And then you just suck through this little top part, and there are micro filters throughout this entire thing, carbon filters. You replace them, but you can use it for quite a while before you replace the filters, and you can drink the water safely. It really takes almost all particulates, all bacteria, everything out of what's in the water. So I've tested it before in just a regular stream that we've hiked by, and the water's great. So in a long-term situation, I'd take this just in case I didn't have enough water to pack in, or that I needed something else in an emergency situation. So I get caught somewhere, I've been hurt, I'm stranded, I have no way of signaling someone. This would be some way of making sure I stay hydrated. But in this case, I'm tagged with a permit, I've signed in. If I don't sign back in at the end of my day, search and rescue comes out, or the rangers come out. So I'm not likely to be out there more than a day at the most. This would be something I would take only if it was 3 days or more, which is your general hydration limit. Another thing I'm not taking is a fire starter stick. I am taking a pack of matches, so I always have some kind of fire starting kit because when you're out there, especially if it's cold, if you have some way of keeping warm. So I've got these cool little these cool little tubs that came in one of my Cairn boxes, and you can see it looks like a disc. Doesn't weigh a lot. I'm only taking one, and it's watertight, so I put my paper matches in here. And the nice thing about these is these are one-handed. Pops open, snaps shut. So I've got a book of generic matches in there. I take them with me. Now, because I don't trust that one level of security is enough, I take a lighter with me too. So if you'll notice in this little pack, I have a little pink lighter in a plastic bag just to keep it dry, with some toilet paper, because you're going to be out all day. You need some TP. But I always take that in there. Now, lighters are less of a reliable source if the flint gets wet. The best of all, if you're really talking about survival techniques, is this fire starter, just because it'll light when it's windy and it's wet. Lighters won't, matches will get wet, so you've got some issues there. All right, so the other part of what is important about what I'm taking is how I dress. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. The important thing for this trip is layers. One of the things I learned really quick when I started hiking out here is that it may feel really cold when you walk out your front door, and it may even be colder when you get to the trail. But then you start hiking, and all of a sudden your body starts generating a ton of heat. And so you're going to start sweating, and you're really going to start wanting to peel off. So the first couple of hikes I went on, I actually had one big coat. And we started going on the hike, and next thing I knew, I'm drenched in sweat. And so I took my coat off, wrapped it around my waist, hiked some more, and then you're getting the chills because your body's so wet and you're in cold weather. So what I'm going to do now is, for this hike, I'm going to layer. So I got a question real quick?
Yes, Gail says your schmoke scarf is a multitasker. She loves it, and toilet paper is important. Toilet paper is important.
We're going to get to why toilet paper is important even more so in a second. You're going to love my next item after I talk about clothes. But I like multi-use items. So multitaskers, especially out in the woods or going hiking, is a big deal. It really is, because if you can take one thing, well, that's two things. If you take one thing that can do 6 or 8, then that's that much less gear you have to carry. So I don't have to carry a splint, I don't have to carry a wrap, I don't have to carry a blanket. I've got it all in one. So good point on that. So I'm going to layer. So what I've got behind me here is I actually start with a silk undershirt. There are a lot of different kinds of undershirts you can get. This is kind of thin, but this is my base layer. So I've got a nice, tough, good insulating base layer. I'm going to wear a t-shirt over that. And then I'm going to wear just a regular, zip up things here. Hold on, let me pull this off. So my third layer after my t-shirt is I just have a regular Columbia, kind of sweater zip up. It's nothing that's specifically a big deal outdoors. It just is comfortable. It's a nice warm layer, so I really enjoy it. And then on top, this is the big thing, is you want something that is going to be a nice waterproof shell. It does not have to be really warm by itself. So this jacket I got got some nice mesh inside, so if I do sweat or get damp inside, it dries me off really quickly. I don't get that same problem I had with my jacket the first hike I did. And the outside, rain just runs right off of it. Also snow, because if you're going to be up on mountains, you never know when the snow's going to hit. So the shell really is what caps off all of it and keeps you the warmest overall. So if I need to shed something and it's not raining, this is first. If it is raining, I'll take off the middle layer, keep this on, and I'm still cooling off a little bit. So I always leave a little bit of extra room in the pack so I can roll these items up and stuff them in. You can also just drape them up over your pack. I've done that before. And keep it out of your way. Something is, it's not going to be dragging behind you or falling off as you're trying to wrap it around your waist, especially with the waistbands that these have on them. So this is my kind of go-to for outer layer. There are lots of brands, so you can find a lot of things that work really well with that. And then I've got a good pair of hiking boots. There are tons of them out there. I just went with the typical Timberline leather hiking boot. It's probably one of the least expensive you can get. But what's most important with hiking shoes is try them on, spend some time walking around in them. What feels really, really good for you? because I actually went with some more expensive shoes that had higher ratings. They were supposed to be better trail rated, and they were supposed to be the best you can get. I wore them for a day, and the inside part of my foot really started to rub and hurt, and I just couldn't do that on a long trek that took 12 miles round trip, or something I was going up 8,000 feet. So I tried the Timberlines on. They were the least expensive, but they felt the best on my foot. I've since hiked quite a few miles in them. I think I have probably about 45 miles on these shoes, and they feel wonderful. So go with what feels good for you. And then the other thing, which is kind of, you wouldn't think about, but don't go with a pair of Hanes socks. Find a good pair of socks. I have one pair of hiking socks. That's it. These are by a company called Darn Tough. I just went online. I looked up a lot of people's thoughts and feedback on different types of socks, what they liked. I'm a researcher, so I spent a lot of time looking at what I think are, other people think, and honest feedback, not just from, say, some review sites can be more neutral than others, but cross-reference, which is what I did. And these are just a wool sock, primarily wool blend, which makes a difference if your feet get wet. So I actually took these on a hike that my son and I went on in a place called Ape Cave. And it's actually a lava tunnel cave that you hike this trail, and then you climb down some steps, and you hike down this cave a mile, I think it was about a mile straight down. And all you're doing is going down this big tunnel, pitch black, and it's wet. So the floor has puddles all over it, and he had a pair of wool hiking socks, and I had mine right here, these Darn Tough. You feel your foot get wet, and then after about 30 seconds or so, your foot's still nice and warm. So by the time we left, I could wring these out, and they dripped, but my feet weren't cold. So it's a little splurge, but it's worth it in the end, especially for comfort. And then I haven't really gotten any blisters from these as well, which could be the shoes, it could be the socks, but I know the combination of the two, I haven't had any really bad blisters, even on some big hikes. So these are some good ones. Another piece of thermal equipment that is really important, and I pack for emergency because I'm not going to be spending the night. I've got this little guy here. This is by Survive Outdoors Longer. You can find a lot of different companies that make these, but essentially this is an emergency bivvy or an emergency shelter. It's like if you took an emergency blanket, made it slightly thicker, folded it in half, and then had a way to seal it all the way around. So if I do get stuck out there overnight, somehow I get lost, somehow I get hurt, the rest of the group is gone, and I know I need to spend the night there, I'm going to be prepared to be safe during the night. I've got my fire starting equipment if I need. I've got plenty of food and water extra. And then this emergency bivvy, I'll cuddle up in that at night. I've got all my layers, and I'll stay nice and toasty. That bivvy is rated for some pretty low temperatures, so even if it gets below freezing, I can cuddle under a rock with that thing, and I'll be perfectly fine. And it'll be nice and toasty inside of it. I've already unrolled it and tested it, so I recommend any gear that you get, open it up and see what it's like, and test it out, or be able to unroll it and roll it back up. I pulled that out, laid it out in my living room, got myself in it, and within about 30 seconds it was too warm for me to be laying in. So I know I'm good when it gets nice and toasty. So that's there. So a couple other things I'm taking, sort of. Let's see. I got a couple of these sunscreen. So this is regular sunscreen I could put on my neck that might be exposed a little bit, my ears. And then I've got this face stick by Surface. It's called Surface Sun Systems, and this is one I got in a Cairn box as well. But it's almost like a deodorant stick, and it's for your face. And one thing that people don't think about is you don't have to go on a beach somewhere or in the middle of the summertime to get sunburned. So with these things, I'll make sure and really drench myself wherever I have exposed skin, because when you're getting up in that thin air, or when you're getting up in the area where there is higher UV, you're going to burn faster. If you're in an area where there's lots of snow, so if I was hiking, say, Mount Hood, which is on the Oregon side of the river, lots of snow, you're going to get a lot of reflection from the UV, so these are really critical. I'm going to put them in my car so that I make sure that I apply them right before I take off, but I'm not packing them out. If you're going on a long trip, you can take them if you want. Another thing we're going to talk a little bit about is illumination. So how do you light your way? You might be out there in the dark because it's an accident and you're stuck out there, or you might be in the dark on purpose. So I'm actually leaving at 5 a.m., starting the trail at 5 a.m., so before sunup, so that I can get to a certain point, the tree line where the trees stop, by sunrise. And that gives me plenty of time to go up, plenty of time to relax, and plenty of time to come down before sunset. There are lots of mountains that people hike where they actually leave at like 9 p.m. and hike through the night just so they have time to get to a major summit and then back down. So Mount Hood is that way, depending on how you camp at it. Everest is like that when you make the final summit attempt. There's a lot of mountains where people do. So flashlights are important even if it's not an accident. I have a lot of different varieties. I like having a little emergency one that I keep in my bag just when I'm going around town. This is a cool little one by UCO. I got this in a Karen box. I'm not taking it with me, and I'll tell you why. It's a great camping flashlight. So if it's folded in, I've got a flashlight. It's got a couple of settings so I can get a little dimmer, and then it's even got an emergency setting. So I can set it like this if I'm stuck somewhere, and if I fall asleep, this thing is going to keep flashing as a strobe, and it's going to send out a beacon. It's an LED light, so it uses very little energy, so this thing will last quite a while. But it is battery powered. If I pull it open, it acts as a lantern, so I can hang this from a tent somewhere. So I would take this with me camping somewhere. I'm not taking it with me hiking, and I'm not taking it with me on a mountain. What I am taking is my favorite flashlight, and this is a light by a company called Hybrid Light. And it's an LED as well, so it's super bright, takes very little energy. There's two settings, there's bright and there's dim. But there are two things I love about it. One, when I'm in my car on the way there, or when I'm at home, it's got a little plug-in for micro USB like charger, similar to what you would use for your Android devices. Or, my favorite, it's got a solar panel. So that little solar panel, I can have that on my backpack facing out, and all day long when I'm hiking, it's charging this battery. And because it's an LED, it uses very, very little energy, so it doesn't take much to keep this charged. As a matter of fact, I've used it quite a bit. I've only used this actual USB charger or plug-in wall charger once when I first got it. Since then, I've only ever used this, this little solar panel right here. So during the day, charges right up for, I've gotten, I think probably 4 hours is the longest I've gone with it, but no issues with it whatsoever. So I put this in the mesh side, this little mesh pocket on the side here, and it picks up any sunlight that comes through that mesh, and it actually works really, really well. So another piece of illumination I'm taking, because I am going early in the morning and I'm using the trekking poles, I don't want to have to hold that flashlight. So that's more my backup. This is my primary when I'm hiking. So this is by Black Diamond. There are plenty of flashlight or headlamps out there, and you can find plenty. I've even seen them at Lowe's where you can get the ball caps with the little LEDs right in the front of them. Whatever your pleasure, whatever fits you and whatever feels comfortable, which is the kind of primary thing behind all of these stuff. So I like this one. I tried it on. It fits well. It's not uncomfortable for long periods, but it has, there we go, has a nice bright light on it, so when I'm hiking it shines straight down, and it has a couple of settings. So this one's neat. If I hold it, watch, it gets dimmer. Keep holding it, it gets brighter. So if I don't want to be super obnoxious, especially if I'm in a group of people hiking, I can put it lower. Or if I'm in a camping situation where you're in a tent, you don't want a super bright light, wake up everybody in the tent. So that makes it nice. And then it's adjustable. You can see here, it leans down more or up. So if you want to watch the trail way ahead and look for blazes on the trail, so the markers for what trail you're on, or if you'd rather watch the ground if it's more of a rough terrain, you can do that. So when I first start in the morning and I'm on that forest trail, this is what I'm going to be wearing. I've got to figure out how it fits with my hat, but I think I'm okay with that. So the last bit of illumination is really a dual purpose. So again, going back to Gail's comment, multitasker. This is a power pack I got from the Karen box called Power Practical. And it does two things. Number one, much like the charging sticks you can get for your smartphone, it has a little charger that I can plug in my smartphone and use to recharge my phone. I can probably charge my phone twice with this one pack, 1.5 times, depending on if I'm trying to charge it from dead back to regular. But it does a couple of things. One, when it's on charging, it gives me an indicator about how much battery is in there. So you can see right now I'm at 3 out of 4 bars. So I'm going to plug this in tonight, just so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow, so I make sure this is fully charged. But when you flip it the other way, it's actually a lamp. So I can set this up wherever I am, and again, LED lights, uses very little energy. So even if I needed to use this as a third backup flashlight, this is awesome. But that brings up a good point, and it brings up something that's very controversial when you talk to hikers and campers, is should you bring a smartphone with you? Some of the places I go, there's no reception. You can go out into some of the wilderness areas and you cannot make a call or text. You can't access the internet. But I do bring it with me, and there are a couple of things that I absolutely love about having the smartphone with me. I'll try and keep it on low energy, but there are a couple of apps that I do use. One is called Cairn, not related to the Cairn box that I get. It's just called Cairn, C-A-I-R-N. And what it does is when you start your trip, you enter your location, you enter where you're going, and then you enter in the time that you expect to be back. And what it does is it automatically text messages and emails, whichever you choose, you can set it up, your emergency contacts. So I have it set up to text my wife, and email my wife, and then my son, and then my oldest daughter. So all 3 of them have all the information of where I started, where I'm going, and then what time I expect to be back. If I don't return, whether my smartphone is on or not, whether the battery is dead or not, Cairn automatically sends a message out to them to say, I've not returned at the time that I said I would. If I do get back in time, I open my phone, there's a little button that says I'm okay, and I can check in at my car, and it lets them know I'm all right. One of the cardinal rules of going out hiking, especially in a place, out in the wilderness or a place like a mountain like I'm going, is make sure you let people back at home know your plans. What are you doing? Where are you going, and when you plan to be back? So that Cairn app actually works really nicely for that. If it takes me longer to get there in traffic and I'm not quite sure how long it takes, or if I do happen to have a cell signal somewhere, I can always extend that time out. So I really, really like that app. The other one that I use is called All Trails, and it's an app that you can download the trails that you're going to be taking, so that when you're on the trail, you can have your airplane mode on, and it still will show you where you are on the map, and it still shows you where the trail is. Now, I don't rely on the map on my phone exclusively, because I carry my phone in my back pocket. And I've had plenty of times when I went to walk across a creek and I almost fell on my rear end, and that would ruin the smartphone. So there goes my map. So I always bring a primary source, a real map with me. I always keep it in the side of my pack, and this has actually not saved me, but it's helped keep me on the trail a couple of different treks, and I've come across a couple of hikers who didn't have maps who I've helped with the maps that I have. So there are a couple of places you can go. All Trails, the app that I talked about, if you go to their PC version, you can print out a copy of the map of the trail you're going on. Or you could go to your local outdoor gear store and you can buy a really nice physical map. I normally just print one out, put it in a plastic bag in case it gets wet or there's rain or you fall in the creek, which would kill my smartphone. But I actually splurged a little bit and went with a map from Green Trails. Green Trails Maps does some really nice detailed maps. This one is Mount St Helens. So I went and got a really nice one with all the trails on this. So if you see here, you can see it actually has the caldera, it actually has the trails, a lot of markings, and then on the back, there's a lot of extra information about other areas that you're going. So I folded this specifically so that it is showing the trail that I'm going on. So tomorrow, I'm actually heading, not tomorrow, Wednesday. You see right here, that's Ptarmigan Trail. So this green trail goes all the way up to where the trees stop, and then this is the ascent to the summit. via the mountain. So that's where I'm going to be climbing rocks and ash and things like that. So I always have a paper map, but I also always take my smartphone with me. And then of course it has the added benefit of there's a light on it. If you are in a place where there's reception, where I've been in a couple of mountains where we do have it, then you can actually text people. Like when I went to Silver Star Mountain, which is a beautiful mountain in Washington State, and you can see 8 different peaks from the top of it. I was up there and I was able to text. I was getting reception from up there. I couldn't see a cell tower, but I was actually getting reception from up there. So I was able to text from there. And then if you start losing juice, that's when you use your little charger pack. You can also get smaller ones, but I would get one that's a little more heavy duty. Like this, you can feel it's pretty strong, and it held the charge for me really well over time. But there are lots of other brands out there, and you can find a good one. So if you are going to take a cell phone, I'd take that one. But always have your backup map. Stuff this back in here, and then, of course, compass. Learn how to use it. This is a little bit more of a complicated one. This has the orienteering pieces on it, so you can actually find your bearing based on landmarks. Or if you just have a regular physical compass, just knowing where north is helps a lot. I also find that studying the map and understanding where you are in relation to a mountain makes it pretty easy as well, because if I know I'm climbing up the mountain going north, if I'm going sideways and the mountain's over there, I'm going west. So I study the map a little bit before I go, even without the compass. All right, so last couple of things. Check here. Nope, we're looking good. Okay, last couple of quick things. You might see behind me this pair of pants. These are convertible pants, so hiking pants that actually have a little zipper halfway up. They turn from pants into shorts if you get hot, so those are nice. I always carry a first aid kit with me, so this is just a weekender version. It's a small one, but it's got enough things in it that if there's an emergency, it's got medication, Band-Aids, some immediate wound care items, and some topical relief. It's nothing that's going to be a major rescue operation kind of first aid kit, but I always carry one with me. Because I'm going to be climbing over big boulders at Mount St Helens, I've got a nice pair of gloves. I just got these at I think Home Depot or Lowe's, but you know, a nice little goat skin. Find a pair that fit and feel really comfortable. I got these. And then, last but not least, I'm trying to plan for every eventuality, and it dawns on me, probably about 2 weeks ago, what happens if I'm halfway up the mountain, exposed with no trees, and I have to go to the bathroom. There's only about 100 people on the trail, so privacy is not a huge deal, but on a mountain, if you have to evacuate your bowels, for example, that stuff's not going anywhere, especially if it's a snowy mountain. So most places have rules about what you're allowed to do if you do have to use the bathroom. If you're in an area where there are trees and there's leaf litter and things on the ground, you can dig what's called a cat hole. So you dig a small hole that goes down 18 inches or so. You can use the restroom into that hole, even put toilet paper in it, because when you bury it back with the soil on top, that decomposes. If you're on the top of a mountain where there's almost no moisture or it's all snow, it stays and it doesn't go anywhere. So I did my homework, my wife can attest to it, and I found what I thought was the best option. There are lots out there. I bought poo bags. That's right. These are plastic bags that you can save your solid waste in. These ones were made for 2 potential uses. One, you can actually put it in a camping toilet and it folds over like a little seat. Or you can use it on its own. And the nice thing about this is it actually comes with materials, a powder inside, that when you use it, you roll it up, you put it inside another bag that Ziplocs. It actually takes all the moisture out and turns it into a solid and removes the smell. So you're not carrying a bag of poo on your back. These packs actually come with toilet paper, sanitary hand wipes, and sanitary wipes also. I carry my own extra, but these come as kind of a self-contained unit. This is the unopened one. I already opened one just to see what was inside it because I was curious to what it looked like. It looks like a plastic garbage bag about this big. So I'm going to try not to have to use it, but in case I do, I don't want to ruin the mountain. One of the rules of mountaineering is trying to leave no trace. So I don't want to make something that would be a negative experience for another hiker. And then finally, the last thing is when I said I'm a researcher and I like doing my homework, there's one resource that I can't overstate is a great resource, and that's this book right here called Mountaineering, The Freedom of the Hills. This is a very well-known book for those who go either day hiking all the way up to those who are conquering the most intense mountains on the planet. It's been around since I think 1960 was the first publication of it. This is the 8th edition, but it covers everything you can think of, including information on how to dig a cat hole or how to use plastic bags. They even have a home recipe for the powder to put inside of it in case you don't buy one that's pre-made. But this has safety tips, it has how to read a map, it has things like what to do to get in shape for before you go on your hike, it has how to survive. This is a fantastic resource, and it's even a fun read. Like, there's really neat things in here that I would have never thought of about watching movies and seeing how people hook up the ropes and go into snow caves or crevasses, or this has everything on that. It's really amazing. So it's kind of a thick book, but it's worth it as a reference guide if you're going to be going anywhere near any elevation or any hiking. This is my highly recommended book to read. Now, I have plenty of other references, and in some other videos I'll talk about some websites that I really like, including some weather sites and mountaineering. But this is the big one. This is my favorite. Will not be going on my pack. This thing weighs like 8 pounds. It's huge. But I read this quite a bit, and just use this as my primary reference. So that's what I'm packing with me. I should have probably about a 15 to 20 pound pack at most, with all my water and with all my gear, maybe going up to 18 pounds. But it's not going to be a heavy pack. It's not like a mountaineering pack where it's going to be 30, 40, 50 pounds going up. But in just about 30 hours now, 32 hours, that's when I'm going to be heading out. So I'm going to be leaving the house here, leaving my home base at about 3 a.m. It's about an hour and a half drive to get there, and then I'm going to start hiking at about 5. So I should be on the summit roughly at about 11 o'clock Pacific time, Wednesday the 28th. So if you're awake during that time and you are not at work, don't check it at work, check out my page. I don't know if I have reception by then. At the very least, I'll try and put something up when I get back later that night. But at all costs, I will be putting Thursday, the day I get back, putting up videos, photos. I've got that charger, so I'm going to have extra space to put some videos and stuff up and spend some time taking some photographs. So check out my page, Geek on a Peak on Facebook, and you check out my page on Thursday. You'll see my return trip. That's about it. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you when I come down from the mountain. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.